We need someone innovative to fix this microphone, I think. I will make no comment. Can everyone hear if I just leave that there? Is it okay up the back? Righto. Look, thank you very much. No? No? All right, here we go. Firstly, can I also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past and present. Can I also acknowledge any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with us today and, like Bill, acknowledge their creativity and innovation in this land. Firstly, thank you very much. Something like 300 people in this room, as Bill said, representing 41 organisations. Quite a deal more than last year, as I understand it. I think that's a wonderful thing. Any opportunity, I believe, that we can have a conversation like this that allows us to think just a little bit differently, even if it is for a day at this stage, I think that is a wonderful thing. This summit is about celebrating and embracing innovation. It's not only in health. We just had a role in trying to get things together so we can have this conversation today. It is across all organisations. The fact that we have so many represented, from my perspective, is a really good thing. None of us individually are the font of all knowledge. Collectively, this room has a hell of a lot of knowledge and data that sits up there, sometimes unrelated to a whole lot of other things. But if we start to share, who knows what we can actually achieve. I think that's one of the really key issues for all organisations these days, is how do we actually tap in to the depth of skill and knowledge that is out there, and how do we actually make that mainstream? How do we actually, suck that out of people's heads and make it organisational? And there's a whole lot of things that I'll touch on a bit later that I believe organisations need to do to be innovative thinkers and create space for conversation. I'm going to talk a little bit about health, first of all, and then touch on some of the broader issues that I think will help us. So in health, what I've been trying to do, I've been here 9 months now, what I've been trying to do is to lift from a very tactical thinking around programs to a department that actually thinks strategically about the health policy of our health system across the country. We are the Commonwealth, yes. We interact with states and territories, yes. But overarching issue for me is that we are dealing with a health system. And all the parts are connected. And we need to actually learn from all of those parts of the system in whatever we try and do. We need to try different things. We need to think differently. We need to learn from our mistakes, because we made a lot of them. So what are we getting out of that? We can't have an environment that allows crucifixions every time someone makes a mistake. That is the first thing that will dampen creativity and innovation. I believe we need to put data and analytics at the centre of a whole lot of the conversations that we have. Because if we have data and analytics that drive some of our strategic policy thinking, we can actually break down some of the long-held beliefs on what a health system is about. If we can get that central way forward where we understand the interactions in our system through that data, I think we will be a much better place. Therefore, when we start to look at our system, we need to understand what new technologies are out there and how do we actually start to utilise them. We need to engage with our stakeholders, and I'll come back and touch on that a bit later. We can't ignore people who have a view on the health system, positive, negative, or indifferent. We need to empower our people to value add, doing better things and doing things better. We should not be constrained in our thinking. And I think we have been largely constrained on a range of fronts. and I want to touch on that as well. If we do this, we will be ready when opportunity calls. I'm a great believer in this. We should have a bottom drawer full of ideas, particularly when the crisis comes, because inevitably they do. And if you don't have some ideas out of your bottom drawer, you can't pull them out, throw them on the table, and get yourself out of the whatever mess may be there. That crisis, I like to think our crisis in health in the last little while has been the co-payment. Very publicly and politically difficult, but we now have some very, very interesting ways forward around Medicare more broadly and primary health care. And we would not probably have got that opportunity without a crisis of a kind that allowed us to really push the boundaries on getting some real change thinking around Medicare and primary health care. I've worked in a number of different places over the years, and I cannot tell you how many times people have told me things won't work because we tried it once, or we tried it 5 years ago or 20 years ago. I said, have you tried it today? Because today might be different. Timing might align. The world might have shifted its thinking on particular issues. You might need to nuance things to bring it up to date. But for me, what I've seen over many years now is timing is everything. You can have a fantastic idea that won't work because the timing's wrong, and you can have a dog of an idea that might work when the timing is right. You've got to be very careful that you pick the right one of those from time to time. You'll get a lot of excuses in organisations. Things like, what if we don't have time? I don't have time to put aside to think. We're always busy. Our urgent is always getting in the way of important. And having run immigration for 3 years, the urgent did get in the way of important quite often. But what you have to do is make space. And I've always said, if I need to make space, yet I'm being dragged from pillar to post on an hourly basis, how do I create that space? Quite frankly, sometimes you need to employ it. But you still need to drive this as a leader if you're going to do that. You can bring people in to have conversations and actually expand your bandwidth by doing things in quite a different way. So you need to try things, because it's no excuse to say, I don't have the time to do this. Organisational credibility, though, is fundamental. If you have people who don't have organisational credibility trying to be your innovation champions, probably won't go a long way. So again, need to be careful. So for me, what is the best culture for things like this that we're going to talk about today to succeed? You need, as leaders, in whatever space you're in my view, to do a few things. You need to listen and watch what is happening around you. As soon as you actually take the time to listen and watch what's happening, take opportunity when you're in different spaces in organisations, you will learn a hell of a lot. And it doesn't matter who you're speaking to, where you are. People come up to me in all sorts of weird and wonderful places, not only at work. The weekends, it's quite interesting. I go to Bunnings and I'll run into someone who wants to talk to me about something that goes on. I go to the chemist, I have the same issue. I never not want to talk to people like that, because it is an opportunity for you to get some message out there, or someone to give you a message that they believe is important, or you might believe is important. So you need to be open to a whole lot of things like that when you are trying to be someone who is open to a new conversation. So listen and watch. Don't presume others don't have good ideas. Sometimes there is a bit of a view that, how could they possibly have a good idea? They're too high, low, in between in an organisation. They work in a completely different area. They know nothing about health. I'll use a bit of an example. I was in immigration and they were telling me how different and special they were, and apologies to any immigration people that may be in the room today, how different and special they were. So I used a little example. I said, so why are you different and special? Oh, because we detain people and we run these detention centres and we do all that sort of wonderful stuff. I said, yes, you do. So let me just describe something for you. So you don't know who's arriving, and they arrive in a place that is quite difficult sometimes. It's usually overcrowded. You have to make an assessment when they're there. You have to feed them, clothe them, and deal with them. You then need to make further assessments about where you're going to place these people. You might move them to another centre. Ultimately, you do a final assessment, which will mean those people move into the community on a visa. I said to them at the time, geez, doesn't that sound like the health system, where you're dealing with an emergency department, which is overpacked, you don't know who's coming? You move them to a ward, you may move them to another peripheral hospital, and eventually, hopefully, you discharge those people to the community well. So you can, if you think laterally about any circumstance, you can usually come up with a parallel somewhere. We need to be open. We need to not presume others don't have those ideas. Don't encourage patch protection. Again, a lot of patch protection will destroy our ability to think creatively. Share information for the wider good. Information sometimes is seen as power. We need to get over ourselves and share that for the greater good. We may not always agree with our colleagues or stakeholders, but by God, we've got to listen to them. Because, again, if I go back to we're not the font of all knowledge, we need to recognise that and move on. We need to embrace a permission culture. We need the permission to do things, to try things, sometimes to fail. I'll come back to that in a sec. We also need to have the courage to pursue ideas. Don't always hear about courage, but you do need courage in organisations sometimes to pursue ideas. I have another favourite for me is be stewards of the system that you're dealing with. Don't try to be the owner. Ownership models are not that effective in the things that we deal with. But if you're a steward and you're looking after the long-term value proposition for the system, we can do a lot. Getting back to that permission culture is we need to acknowledge failures and learn from them. We need to also recognise and reward good ideas, but we also need to celebrate success. So, just wrapping up, how will we know we are successful in health? Well, first of all, I think we'll no longer be talking specifically about how do we drive this culture. It becomes business as usual. I think we're a little way away from that. I think we will be seen also as an innovative system leader, which is another important thing for me. And for me specifically, in the health space, I don't want to be a participant on the sidelines. I want to be seen, and I'm talking about health, I want the Commonwealth Department to be seen as a national leader in the health system. For this, we do need to embrace innovative ideas and innovation culture. If we do that, we can do anything, in my view. So today, I hope you are all inspired and empowered to go back to your organisations and workplaces and start sharing and creating new ideas. Thank you all.